I just want to go ahead and present myself. My name is Diomar Pena, and I am the Southern California Outreach Manager here with Small Business Majority. I will be the moderator for today's webinar, as well as one of the presenters. And just to give you an idea of the partners for this webinar, we also have Silver Lining, where Melissa Shurkin will be covering the mindset of small business owners, and Accion, where Lauren Rosenbaum will be covering information about the various products that Accion offers to the small business owner community across the country. Now, within the next hour, we are going to walk through some of the nuts and bolts of access to capital for small businesses, and we'll go through questions to ask yourself as you're considering funding options, and we will spend most of our time navigating through some of these alternative forms of capital that are available to you in the marketplace. We're very excited to be able to launch this session as part of a webinar series here at Small Business Majority focused on creating programming dedicated to increasing awareness around the different access to capital options for small business owners. This is one of the components of our national program, which we launched in 8 regions across the country, and a piece of our broader entrepreneurship program. I'm really excited to let you guys know that a couple of years ago, based on some of the feedback that Small Business Majority got from our standard education series, where we covered, and I'll go into like the background on our organization, but we got a lot of feedback from small business owners and entrepreneurs within the community saying that access to capital was one of those topics that was top of mind when it came to starting, operating your business, looking to grow or expand your business. And so with that being said, we developed an entrepreneurship program and now have a resource portal where we house several different toolkits, also information on these various different topics, which I will be talking about today. Now, a couple of housekeeping items before we jump into the presentation. There's a lot of information that you guys will be hearing in the next hour, and there are a lot of slides to go through, so we will make the presentation available to all of you after the webinar. So please feel free to take vigorous notes, but just know that you will have access to the PowerPoint afterwards, so you can go ahead and take your time to review the information, click on any resource links that you see would be helpful for you as you're exploring your different options. And there will be a question and answer period towards the end of the presentation that will be conducted through the chat box. So at any time as we're going through the topics, please feel free to type in your questions into the chat box in the lower left-hand corner of your screen at any time during the presentation, and we'll go ahead and sort through those. And honestly, no question, every question is meaningful. And so if you have a question about maybe just traditional lending versus non-traditional lending, or average credit scores for different forms of financing, or your specific business, while we may not be able to have all the answers, we'll do our best to try to answer each and every question. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So a little bit about Small Business Majority. We are a small business education and advocacy organization founded and run by small business owners. We are lucky last year to have celebrated 10 years in business. And so as a 501c3, our work is really geared to being able to provide research, advocacy, and education to small business owners across the country. As I mentioned, I am the Southern California Outreach Manager, so I cover just a small little region in the state of California, everything south of Bakersfield to San Diego. And a lot of the other outreach managers in the multiple different offices across the country also cover similar ground, some covering an entire state, to be able to provide these educational services via in-person presentations through our partnerships with different chambers and through webinars as well, to be able to give this information to small business owners. Now, our focus has been on those issues of top importance to small businesses, and we classify a small business as any business that has less than 100 employees, and we also tailor our educational programs to those individuals that are either self-employed or entrepreneurs. And so some of those issues that we're focused on providing education include access to capital, which we'll be talking about today, workforce, healthcare, retirement, taxes, work that is clearly supported by extensive research. The way that we take on an issue is we need to first identify, is this a relevant topic for small business owners, and is there research that indicates this is something that us as an advocacy organization should be focusing on? And so once we conduct the research, we then look at plugging other pieces of our work within a specific topic. Now, as mentioned, our entrepreneurship program looks to bring resources and education to small business owners and entrepreneurs in key areas of running and growing a small business. So you should definitely, if you have a couple of minutes and after the presentation, once you receive the PowerPoint, check out our small business portal, which does have detailed information on these multiple different lending options that we'll be covering during today's webinar. It also will give you a breakdown based on the state that you're in to see which lenders are available in your specific region. And all of the lenders that are listed on our portal have been through a vetting process. And so our director of our entrepreneurship program has sat down with these entities, has vetted that they are responsible lenders, that they are actually delivering products and services that are helpful for the small business owner, not predatory, that they offer transparent pricing and all of those things. And in our portal, we also have another piece where we provide information on those various technical assistance providers. And so definitely a great way to be able to obtain information. So I talked a little bit about our model. Again, our buckets of work really fall within these four categories. We start with research, check out the polling, look at economic studies, engage whether small business owners actually look at this specific topic as important to their bottom line. We then take that, we advocate for small business owners, we look to connect with legislators and educate them about a specific topic, and also plug in small business owners into that conversation. Oftentimes, small business owners, their voices are left behind when it comes to the policy-making table. And so for us, on topics even like access to capital, when we're talking about transparent pricing and having options to responsible lending options, these are things that legislators should be made aware of, and small business owners can amplify their voices through different things like letters to the editor or op-ed pieces or a blog or actually visiting their local elected officials. And so we do some of that work as well. And then the education piece. So we partner with different chambers, small business organizations, key partners, and providers within different communities to be able to provide this education. And now we have a very robust network of small business owners, of lawmakers, and of different partners within various communities to be able to expand visibility on our education programs. So with that being said, as a wrap-up, the 5 core program areas of our entrepreneurship program include access to capital, retirement security, healthcare and other workforce benefits, business skills, and technology. Now, we have launched our access to capital work, our retirement security work, and our healthcare and other workforce benefits. The only 2 components that are still in development are the business skills and technology pieces, which are both pretty vital to running and operating a business. And so as we're continuing to develop our portal and our educational programming, you will be able to access those online workshops and in-person seminars as well. We do have a special focus on providing education to women entrepreneurs, minority entrepreneurs, but when we're talking about small business, we're looking at the small micro businesses. About 92% of all the businesses that we meet about a good number of businesses that we come across in our work are micro businesses, with those businesses having less than 10 employees, which account for about 92% of all the business structures across the country. So important figure to know there. So when you ask yourself as a small business owner, what did happen to business bank lending? We know that when it comes to the small business bank lending, the traditional loan options, that piece is down by about 20% and has been down since before the Great Recession. So many of those larger banks, traditional banks, are more risk averse, and they have stricter underwriting standards. So essentially, you as a small business owner may be applying for a loan at your local bank where you have built a relationship with your banker. But if, for example, your business hasn't been in business for 2 or more years, or your credit score isn't up to a certain par, or your business plan isn't completely, your projections aren't thoroughly put together, the banks have stricter underwriting standards, so they're less likely to actually approve smaller dollar loans. And we know that also the small business loans tend to be riskier than those large business loans. So for the lending institution, for the bank, it's costly to write those smaller dollar loans. It costs them about the same amount in terms of underwriting dollars when they're processing $1 million loan and processing, let's say, a $150,000 loan. And so that smaller dollar loan, they tend to work with different micro lenders in the community to be able to supply capital to that small business owner. We also, as mentioned, focus our programs on women and minority-owned businesses. And we know that these two groups face significant barriers. Typically, they are smaller in size. They start with less capital, and they tend to have lower approval rates for bank loans and at smaller dollar amounts. And what we find also is that these groups are more vulnerable to predatory lending. And so moving on, some important questions to consider. When you are about to begin your quest on seeking a financing option that works for you, you should definitely take your time to answer these questions thoroughly. And I think all of them are equally important, but the first 3 I would say are like super critical to being able to really identify like which funding option works best for you in your business. And so what do you actually need the money for? How much money do you need? And how long will it take you to pay it back? These 3 questions need to be answered off the top when you're talking to a lender, whether that's a micro lender or the bank that provides an SBA Community Advantage program, or even an angel investor not an angel investor, but traditional lending. So another SBA-backed program. The other questions: what is the current financial shape of your business? How long have you been in business? Depending on where you are in your business growth. For example, if you're a startup, there are some lending institutions that absolutely don't lend to startups. So for example, it's harder to get a bank loan and kind of unheard of when you have 0 tax history of your business. And so that may not be the option. Maybe you need to go a different route to be able to find that capital. How much collateral, if any, do you have to put up for the loan? Oftentimes, a lot of these different lenders do require that you have collateral and that you become personally liable for the debt that you're looking to take on. How quickly do you need the money? So if you need the money next week, you are limiting the options that are available to you. So for example, an SBA-backed loan, talking about something that the federal government also vets through a banking institution, and I'll go into some of these in more detail, but with that type of loan, all your documents need to be in order, and if you're missing a page even of your tax return, that can hold up your application process. And so that, that's something to keep in mind. And then, are you seeking debt or equity financing? They're two different things, and they're both distinct. Again, I want to talk about the importance of the first three questions. I've met with different lenders in this work in the last couple of years, and one of the things that they tell me is they're frequently sitting at their desks. A small business owner or an entrepreneur will come, sit across from them and say, I'm interested in getting a loan for my business to be able to grow it. And the banker will say, well, how much do you need? And the small business owner will say, well, how much can you give me? And the banker, to me, lets me know that's an automatic no for us, because this individual hasn't came prepared to say, I need $50,000 for a new oven that I'm going to need to in my bakery, in my shop, and it's going to take me approximately 18 months to pay it, and here are my financial projections. And so just coming prepared, doing your homework. And there's so many different forms of funding, both traditional and alternative forms of financing. So family and friends, personal savings, microloans. Some of the newer forms of alternative financing include things like online cash flow lenders, online marketplace lenders, various crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. But some of the traditional forms of financing, we've always had bank loans, SBA-backed loans, and various CDFI programs, so community development loan funds as well. So when it comes to debt financing is the money that you pay back, usually with interest over a set time period with specific terms. So these would be things like your bank loans, your credit cards, versus equity financing, which involves giving up a portion of the ownership of your business in exchange for money from equity investors. And so equity investors then become part owner of the company. So the best way I can explain it would be angel investors, venture capitalists, and also if you're familiar with like the show Shark Tank, I believe that's what it's called, that will be able to indicate how you can pitch a project or a product or your business idea to a series of angel investors, and if they're interested, then they provide financing for it. However, it's in exchange for some stake in that company, so you're not the sole owner of that business. So CDFIs are really, really key lending institutions for small business owners and entrepreneurs who typically are not eligible for those traditional bank loans. And many of these loan options could be used for a wide range of purposes, of business purposes. Now, CDFIs are dedicated to responsible, affordable lending options geared to underserved entrepreneurs and low-income communities. They do this through revolving loan funds, through private and government funding, and they often provide in-depth support that includes mentoring and technical assistance. So let's say you are ready to go and seek financing, but maybe you still need a little bit of help with your business plan. Some CDFIs do offer technical assistance to be able to guide you through that process. And so that's really neat to be able to sit down and get a free resource that can help you through the process of getting your paperwork in order so that you can be ready to then submit an application. One of the things about CDFI lending, most of the time it's less than $250,000 in terms of financing. So one of the pros is they're flexible in their lending standards. One of the cons is you may need more. So if, for example, you are starting a full-fledged restaurant, maybe that requires a larger investment than just some, money of like less than $150,000, for example. And so depending on what kind of business you're having or what kind of products you're trying to roll out, that will limit or expand your options there. SBA loan programs. So the U.S. Small Business Administration is the federal branch of the government, and they provide a multitude of services to small business owners. One of the things that they do is not provide direct loans, but act as a guarantor for the loans to the intermediary lenders, so like banks and micro-lending institutions. These loans can cover a wide range of uses, and it includes startups, working capital, inventory, real estate, equipment, multitude of different things. The programs that are available are the most popular ones are the 7A program and the CDC 504 program. The CDC 504 program is mainly around commercial real estate, and so they do have some programs that are available in that way. You can find more information on our resource portal on the SBA-backed loan programs. One of the benefits to an SBA-backed loan option is that you're set with a fixed rate. Sometimes these can be multi-year loans, and so your payment to repay is lower than that. And because you're backed by a lending institution and they're comfortable if it comes to if, for example, you're a small business owner, you're maybe looking for $200,000 to get your expansion, you've been in business for 2 years, and you're trying to go through a traditional banker, and you have some collateral, you have some credit, but the banker may not feel as incentivized to lend you the money. What the SBA programs can do is provide essentially a guarantee saying, should this person default on this loan, we will cover up to 80% of this loan. So that incentivizes these lending institutions to be able to then do that offer to extend you credit. Community banks and credit unions, these are great partners and allies for small businesses. You see there the approval rates back in 2014. We're trying to get some updated figures for that. But big banks approved about 20% of small business loan applications versus community banks, which approved about 50%, and credit unions about 43%. Many of these can have different standards in terms of what is required for you to be able to obtain a loan from them. So, for example, credit union, you must be a client in order to become a member. Many of them may not have small business loan products. Some of them will. One of the biggest, I think, challenges can be some of these smaller banks do have less technological capabilities, for example. But again, key allies to small businesses, we know that they are approving loans at a higher rate than those larger banks. Now, alternative online lenders, this is a new breed of online lenders that are really innovating the way that small business lending occurs, and they're expanding new options for entrepreneurs. These options offer simple, streamlined application processes which have a quick approval and delivery of funds, and they utilize technology and new sources of social data to assess risk. So some of them do have alternative payment structures. The online lending is largely unregulated at this point, so it's really important for us to point at the very bottom of the slide in bold red letters, small businesses must proceed with caution. And unlike, CDFIs or the banks or a micro lender, most online lenders are not regulated at the federal level, at the state level, at a city level. And so very important to know what is available out there because it is extending lines of credit, but knowing how to proceed in terms of doing your due diligence when you're seeking that capital. And know that not all online lenders are equal. Some players do mask very, very high rates. So online marketplace lenders, these are peer-to-peer lending lenders which connect small businesses with investors for funds. So this includes groups like Funding Circle, Lending Club, and Prosper. Online cash flow lenders, these offer short-term loans, typically for working capital, and the loan payments can be made by daily deductions of a fixed amount of or percent of sales, and it requires access to your business bank account or payment system. So you should definitely be cautious of opaque pricing and high interest rates. And some of the examples for these online cash flow lenders include OnDeck, Cabbage, and IOU Central. The only thing I'm going to say about merchant cash advances is that they do offer quick and unsecured funds, but it comes at a really, really, really high price for you as a small business owner. Essentially, these are payday loans for small businesses, and they're not technically defined as lenders because they don't run credit or background on your business. For example, you don't have to submit a business plan to get funded through a merchant cash advance. But because they're acting as a credit card payment processor, so essentially they will provide you with cash up front in exchange for a portion of future sales. And then each day they will take a percentage of your credit card or debit sales until the loan is paid back, but it's not just the loan amount, it's also a premium. And then that can ultimately be extended over a longer period of time, and then you're paying a higher interest when you look at the cost of the loan over its lifetime. And so knowing that there are so many different lending options for small business owners, one of the things that our organization has been focused on doing is making sure that you know which questions to ask and that there's at least a set guideline of what it should be expected of lenders. And so we worked with a number of different stakeholders and partners that all care about responsible lending options to small business owners to come up with the Small Business BAR's Bill of Rights. Now, this includes, as you can see there, the right to transparent pricing and terms, the right to non-abusive products, the right to responsible underwriting, the right to fair treatment from brokers, the right to inclusive credit access, the right to fair collection practices, and you see there the Responsible Business Lending site, which you can visit to see what lenders have actually signed this and said, I want to be able to offer transparent pricing and terms to my to folks that are looking to get products through me or a loan through me. Now, the BBOR checklist for small business owners is a tool that we developed to really inform small business owners of the questions they should be asking. So I'm going to include a checklist, a PDF checklist that you can download to be able to have this handy when you are going to multiple different lenders and be able to ask, what are the prepayment penalties or what is the full cost of the loan over its lifetime. All of these are really, really, really important. And at the end of the day, and I think we're lucky enough to have a couple of other presenters here to touch on this as well, but you really have to assess your business's financial situation and feel that you can reasonably meet the payment terms to be able to take on one of these funding options. And we didn't really even get to some of the other options available. We do have a national series, which I'll go over towards the end of the presentation because there's another robust number of options like crowdfunding and more tips and resources on angel investors and venture capitalists. And so with that being said, I'm going to, at this point, turn it over to our wonderful guest from Accion. Lauren?
Thank you, Xiomara. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for being, to Small Business Majority, for being a great partner to us. So I'm just going to share a little bit about who we are and where to find more information before I turn it over to our wonderful guest speaker. So Accion is a nonprofit lender to small businesses across the United States. So we are a network of community development financial institutions that together serve business owners all across the country. And we really partner with business owners every step of the way, and that starts with the loan application itself. So we have expert loan consultants who are really there to help you think through what your financing needs are and how you can really put your best foot forward in your loan application. And we also offer business resources and training, whether or not you're a client of ours. If you're just a business owner who wants to start or grow your business, and those resources include online articles, webinars, as well as in-person networking events and workshops and other types of training. So, and we really offer and kind of facilitate a community of business owners who are invested in their own success, but they're also really invested in giving back and helping other small business owners succeed as well. So many of our clients are coaches or mentors. They serve as speakers at our events, at webinars like this, because they really understand the value of giving back. And oftentimes they will even work together and collaborate on business ventures after meeting through those opportunities. And so, one thing that we pride ourselves on is that, we have every year we participate in monitoring and evaluation efforts to understand if our loans and our services are helping people. And we know that those folks that we talk to 1 year after receiving their loan, 97% of their businesses are still open. And so you'll see different statistics on how many small businesses survive nationally, and it's a much lower number. So we know that really helping folks every step of the way is helpful. And so here are some resources for you to learn a little bit more. You will receive a copy of these slides after the presentation, as Yomara said, so don't feel like you have to copy down all of these URLs. But the first place to start, if you're interested in learning more, is our website, us.accion.org. And if you go to the Contact Us section of that website, it's actually going to be tailored to your location. So you're going to get the contact information that corresponds with the office that can help you. And then we also, as I mentioned, we have articles and videos, and we have workshops and events available to anyone who's interested. And so I encourage you to check that out. And now I'm very happy to introduce our guest speaker, Carissa Reiniger, who is the CEO and founder of Silver Lining.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lauren. And good morning, or good afternoon, I should say, to everyone else. I'm actually in Australia right now, and so it's early where I am, but I know it's afternoon for many of you. So I'm here to talk about the right mindset to grow your business, and it's such a great topic in conjunction with Lauren's work at Accion and Small Business Majority, because one of the things that we've learned over the past 12 years of working with small businesses to help them grow is that you really need this beautiful combination of money and wisdom to grow a business. And we've seen a lot of people who get access to capital without really understanding how to use that money to grow their business in the best way, and they haven't succeeded. We've also seen a lot of people who are voracious learners and who have learned everything they possibly could about how to grow a small business, but they've been strapped by not having the right capital to actually do that growth. And so these two topics go so wonderfully together. So I'm really happy to be here talking about the right mindset to actually grow your business. So our business, Silver Lining, we've been working with about 10,000 small businesses in 9 countries around the world for the last 12 years. And we have helped small businesses go through our program, which is called the Silver Lining Action Plan, which is all about helping small business owners build profitable and sustainable businesses. And one of the things that we've learned as kind of our primary realization is that it's really the mindset of the business owner that sets them up for success. Certainly it matters that they've built a good plan, and certainly it matters that they obviously implement it. But the factor that drives whether or not they will successfully wake up every morning, and do the right things so that they actually hit their goals is really their mindset. And so this is, kind of a sneak peek into 12 years of research and experience and working with small businesses around the world to really give you guys a dose of, what we know really, really makes a difference. So, is this your reality? We find that this is the reality of pretty much every small business out there, but you love your business. You started it because you were passionate about something, and you really put your heart and your soul into it. You're full of ideas to improve your business, but sometimes can be distracted by daily activities, and sometimes you just struggle to put all of your big ideas into action. Often you feel lonely and a little bit isolated as a business owner. There's not a lot of people who really understand what it's like to go through what you're going through. You may not always have tons of support, meaning people think you should just get a real job, or maybe there's competing priorities at home, and it's hard to balance a full family life and running a business because both are huge heart and time commitments. Often in small businesses we don't have great management teams to rely on or brainstorm with, and so that adds to that idea of feeling like you're really doing it alone. You don't really know, or you don't have time, or you don't kind of find the right niches when you're out there trying to network and brainstorm with other small business owners. You work a lot. You feel the deep financial responsibility for your employees and their families. And you never feel like you have enough time or money. Time or money are the two things that come up all the time, right? When we ask every small business owner what they need, they always say, I need more time and I need more money. So this is the reality that the majority of small business owners are living in. And it's not necessarily to say that small business owners are miserable, even though that list doesn't sound very exciting. But it's more to say that it's hard to be a business owner. And so we want to help you crack the code of how to make it just a little bit easier with the next couple of slides that we have. So here's how we think about building a growth plan for your business. There's 5 steps to SLAP, and it's not necessarily important that it's SLAP, but it's more important to think about these 5 steps as they apply to your business. So first, we build a SLAP statement, and a SLAP statement is about getting clear on what you do, who you do it for, and the scale that you want to grow. And so this is really about making some fundamental choices. And the reason that this is important is that for a lot of small business owners, we're trying to do too many things for too many groups of people kind of on an undefined scale. And that inherently leads to kind of a lack of focus. And so this is really about kind of doubling down and grounding yourself in some really clear strategic decisions that allow you to be really focused. One of the primary detractors of success for a small business owner is being unfocused, trying to do too many things with the limited time and money that you have so that you're essentially spinning. So there's so much going on that you have a hard time getting it all done. And so ironically, one of the things that we've learned is that the businesses that are the most focused and the most defined and interestingly, that say no the most are actually the ones that grow the most. It's the small businesses that are trying to do everything and be everywhere and sell every product to anyone who has a heartbeat. Those are the ones that often struggle the most. And so there's a beautiful simplicity in just naming what you do, who you do it for, and the scale that you do it on. So for example, Silver Lining's SLAP statement is that Silver Lining sells SLAPs to James on a global scale. And SLAPs is our business growth program. James is an existing small business that wants to grow, and we've got very clear criteria of who that is, and global is our scale. Every decision we make is about making sure that this is available on a global level. And so every decision that I make as a business owner, I just ask myself, will I talk about SLAP? Will James be there as a global and scale? And if the answer is yes, as a business we invest in it. If the answer is no, we don't. But allowing simplicity to come into the business, allowing it to be easy to know when to say yes and when to say no is really what that's about. The second step to building a good growth plan is really understanding your ideal client. So I just mentioned, James, the avatar of our ideal client. And, we believe that things like target markets and broad strokes really aren't helpful for a small business. Again, because we have to protect our time and our money, we need to be laser focused and diligent about what we do and who we do it for. And so, the more information that you can name about your ideal client, it just helps you know who they are and how to connect with them. And we say that an ideal client is someone who has 4 character traits. The first character trait is that they actually pay you for your services, right? We all have so many of those lovely friends or customers who love our business, but who don't always pay, or we give discounts. And so the first attribute of an ideal client is they pay for your service. The second attribute is that you actually really enjoy working with them. The third is that they tell people about you. And the fourth is that they really value your work. And so we're really invested in this idea that as a small business, you don't need hundreds of millions of customers. You need to build a business that's really focused on finding and serving your ideal client, and not worrying about all of these things like, do I need 1 million social media followers? Maybe you do. If your ideal client's on social media a lot, that could be powerful. But if your ideal client isn't, then it's not necessary. And so instead of worrying about being everywhere and doing everything, having an ideal client helps you just do the right things that allow you to connect with your ideal client. And again, this goes back to the mindset of focus and discipline grows a small business better than just big ideas and tons of activity. The next thing then is you have to create a 1-year financial goal. And the 1-year financial goal is really crucial. We've learned, and this goes a little bit into the conversation that you guys have already been in about this idea of access to capital and funding. But our stats show that prior to working with us or a program like this, about 95% of small businesses don't have even have financial goals, or actually don't know financial information like what their true expenses are, or what their variable costs are, or what their profit margins are. And in fact, many small businesses don't even know exactly what their sales numbers were for the previous years. And so there's a lot of small businesses who are running their businesses with a little bit of an eye closed to the finances. And so I've always been very committed to the fact that we need to know the finances, but we want to do it in a way that feels kind of interesting. And so in our 1-year goal version, the things that we think are really important are first for you to really evaluate your expenses and know exactly what's going on in your business, then to understand what you sell, which are your revenue streams, then to really understand your profit margins on each of those revenue streams, and then based on understanding all of those dynamics, set really realistic kind of sales goals for the year, so that you've got an extremely clear goal for what you need to accomplish in the next year, and you know that you can sell it and deliver it, and that it will actually cover your expenses and hopefully make you a profit. And so there's quite a bit of detail that needs to go into really understanding and thoughtfully thinking about the right business model that will get you a profitable, sustainable business. And ultimately, I always say that we are in the business of growing businesses, but instead of being worried about growing your small business, I want to challenge you guys to be worried about building profitable and sustainable small businesses, because growth is not always healthy. And in fact, it's during growth that many businesses fail. Businesses don't fail because they start. Businesses fail because they try to grow, because they try to take those precious resources of time and money and invest them and create more growth. But the problem is that if you don't have a business model that's set up for growth, or if your business model is not totally profitable, growth can actually cripple the business as opposed to grow it. One of the stories of Silver Lining's history is that I started the business 12 years ago when I was 22. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just jumped in, and and ignorance is bliss, and that's the way you've got to do it sometimes. But my business model wasn't great. I hadn't done a good enough version of our own 1-year goal exercise. And so as our business was growing, our profit margin was decreasing because I kept having to hire more staff and more people to fill the gap. And so thankfully I was a very good salesperson, and in our first year of business we did about $1 million of revenue. But unfortunately I didn't take my own advice and really get the business model right. And so we actually spent about $1.1 million that year. And so we were actually in $100,000 of debt. And I learned the hard way, the importance of not focusing on revenue, but actually focusing on profit. And on really thinking about what does it mean to build a profitable and a sustainable business model so that growth fosters the business and makes it better, as opposed to growth really crushing the business. And unfortunately that's a story that a lot of small businesses have, that growth actually hurt the business. And that's what we want to help you guys avoid. So I can't emphasize enough how much really thinking about building a profitable, sustainable business, thinking deeply about your numbers is really crucial so that you can be making good choices in the right mindset to really grow your business. Next is an action plan. So once you've got those one-year goals, of course the question is, well, how do I actually do that? And so what we've learned is that we want you to take your one-year goals and break them into quarterly goals. And then we actually want you to think about reaching out to your ideal client, where you can identify quarterly strategies and monthly action items, the exact steps to make to connect with your ideal client. So our belief about the best way to grow a small business is to stop worrying about marketing and stop worrying about sales and stop worrying about lead gen and stop worrying about social media and stop worrying about all these buzzwords that we hear about how to build a brand and how to get out there. What we think is actually most important is who's your ideal client, where are they, where do they spend their time, what are their interests, who are they hanging out with, and how do you actually go connect with them. And so in our version of an action plan, and our recommendation to you guys is that you should think of your year in 4 quarters and essentially run a connecting strategy campaign per quarter. And I could talk a lot about what the right connecting strategies are to grow a small business, and I could talk a lot about that, but that would take too much time. But just know that if you wanted more information about connecting strategies that we really think work for small businesses, just send us a note, and I'm happy to make sure that we send you some of our resources about that. And then lastly, and this is of course the very most important, and this is what I want to spend my last 5 minutes really diving into, is take day-to-day action and develop the behavior that will result in hitting your goals. A lot of small businesses build plans, but those plans end up on shelves, or they end up being distracted, or they end up changing constantly. And if you're not actually implementing your plan, then there's no point to having a plan. And so we've actually spent most of the last 12 years studying behavior change psychology, because just like, for example, Weight Watchers, right? Just wanting to lose weight is not enough, and then just building a plan to lose weight is not enough. You need to actually get up every day and do certain behaviors that allow you to actually implement that plan and hit your goals. And growing your business is just like that. In fact, if you think about your business as being healthy, you have to work out every day. You have to build a healthy business every single day. You can't build a fit business for a couple of months and then take a break. Things go backwards. And so this idea of actually implementing the plan, developing new behaviors, getting really healthy about how you think about growing your business, that is by far the most important part. And so what I just really want to encourage you guys is, planning is important, but action is more important. Doing the right strategic action is the most important. And as you do that action, you always want to keep in mind that we call it the cash flow capacity catch-22, but you need more time to make more money, and you need more money to make more time. And so the reality is that time and money are your 2 most critical resources. And they're a little bit tricky because they're the 2 things that you need the most of, and you also need them in order to get the other. And that's why we call it the cash flow capacity catch-22. And so it becomes crucial, really, really crucial, that you are really mindful of exactly how you want to grow your business so that you can spend your time and your money in all the best ways. And so that really goes back to, if we just go back for a minute, I'm just going to go back to this slide, if you don't have some structure and some clarity about some of these questions, what do you do, who do you do it for, what's the scale you do it on, who exactly is your ideal client, where are they, what's your expenses, what are your revenue streams, what are your profit margins, what's your sustainable business model that will be more profitable the more you grow, what's your detailed action plan, what are you actually going to go do in order to hit those goals and connect with your ideal client and live out your SLAP statement. And then how are you going to put structure and support around yourself so that you actually take the correct day-to-day activity so that you're implementing that plan well. If these things aren't clear and if you don't have good structure, that's when the mindset goes bad. That's when that's when cash flow capacity, catch-22, gets tighter and you get squeezed more and things become more difficult. And so, this is the business growth mindset that we hear. When we hear small businesses saying things like this, we think that they're probably going to have a pretty good chance of success. Just the owning that you are in charge of your own success is crucial. The fact that you know that how you spend your time and your money is critical to your success, and you are using it very intentionally in a very focused and disciplined way towards your goal. You're proactive and not reactive. You're not waiting for a big opportunity to come your way or something to go wrong, but you're proactive. You're noting what it is you want, and you're going and creating it. You understand that the actions that you take are getting you the results that you have. And so if you know that your actions equal results, then you just have to be clear with the results you want and ensure that you're taking the actions that will get you those results. You understand that small, consistent actions actually do lead to big change. And it's not always about the big movie entrepreneur moment, but it's actually the things that you do every single day that actually lead to the change that you're trying to create overall. And also that you're just learning and always getting better. Holding this mindset is an ongoing process, and we call it the SLAP habit or the SLAP practice. It's a little bit like doing yoga. You have to do yoga every morning in order to recenter and refocus and re-clarify. Or you have to work out every day, to keep your muscles strong. Recentering on this mindset and choosing to operate from this perspective is really a daily practice. And there's so much more we could talk about with this, but I'll leave you with that. This is what we want you guys to be saying, feeling, living out. Because when this is actually true, your possibilities are endless, but it starts with this mindset. So this is just a sketch for the SLAP the SLAP statement that I spoke about. And like I said, it's just a simple fill in the blank. So my example again is Silver Lining sells SLAPs to James on a global scale. And so if you were going to write your own SLAP statement, the challenge is to literally fill in those 4 blanks in the simplest way possible to make some really clear choices so that you are set up to be successful with a mindset of focus and discipline and simplicity. All right, so we've already talked about that. So here's what we want you guys to do is to take action. We'd love for you to actually write your own SLAP statement. And the last thing that I'll just add as we wrap up is that when you are faced with a decision about whether or not to spend your time or your money, having a SLAP statement makes it really easy to stay in the right mindset and make the right choices that propel you forward. And the way that you answer whether or not you should spend your time or your money is if it's in alignment with your SLAP statement. So for example, every time someone says to me, hey Carissa, do you want to go to this networking event? Or hey, could you fund this thing? Or hey, would you want to go to this coffee meeting? Or hey, what about this speaking opportunity? Or whatever. All the things that come up as opportunities, I just filter them through my SLAP statement. I ask, can I talk about SLAP? Will James be there as a global and scale? And if the answer is yes, I say yes. And if the answer is no, I say no. And it is a beautifully simple way and a filter almost of how to make important choices about how to use your critical resources, be proactive about your growth, stay in the moment, and really do the right things to grow your business. So there's a lot more we could talk about all of this. We're going to send you guys some more resources. We're going to run a contest to enter to win a free SLAP Build, a program that we run where we help you build a plan for your business. And you can chat with us about your growth goals anytime, and we're happy to help you. And if we've got a rule at Silver Lining that if we're not the right support for you, we'll help you find the one that is. So at any time, if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to pat@smallbizsilverlining.com. But we wish you success, and the number one thing that I would say is don't be afraid to be disciplined and focused. Make good choices. Know your business inside and out. And really ensure that you're building a profitable, sustainable business model. All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being able to give such in-depth content about all of these important things that small business owners and entrepreneurs should keep in mind when they are looking to grow and expand their business. And so as a wrap-up, here are a couple of resources that are helpful as you're continuing to look at the options available to you. Also, in this PowerPoint, you'll have all of our contact information for the 3 different organizations to be able to connect with the person you might have a question that might be geared for. And so with that being said, one more slide. And so here is our website again. We have various in-person events. I don't think, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And so for those of you that did submit questions, we will definitely be reaching out to you to get those answered. For anybody else, once we send out the follow-up email, if there is something that maybe comes to mind after you review the information one more time, please feel free to reach out to us and to follow up and make sure to utilize us as a resource. So with that being said, SBM, we continue to hold both in-person presentations and events throughout the country that are, as mentioned in the beginning of the PowerPoint of this webinar, that are conducted throughout the country by our regional outreach managers. And we do have an updated event calendar, which is updated every day to reflect any local events that you may have, that we may have in your specific city or state. You can also continue to let us know if you do. We always ask for feedback from small business owners. So as you continue to look at the funding options available to you, if you find that you're seeking out more technical assistance to get your business plan in line or to make sure that you have your projections in order to scale accordingly, feel free to loop us in. We'd love to stay connected. With that being said, we will go ahead and send you guys a follow-up email with all of the resources included in today's presentation, and we hope that this was helpful to everybody that attended. And with that being said, this will conclude our webinar for today. Thank you so much for joining.